everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the 24th day of January in the year 2023. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday, no matter where it is you are in the country. A little chilly here in the Northeast, some snow in the forecast for tomorrow, depending on who you ask. We may see anywhere from 1 to 3 inches tomorrow here in the Kearny-Harrison area, but we will deal with that when it indeed gets here. So, as you do every Monday, you welcome me into your home so that I might bring you a look at this week's newspaper. But before we do that, I want to introduce all of you to a new feature that we've brought to you here at the Observer Live. And if you look at the upper left corner of your screen, if you're watching this live, you will be able, if you see something we talk about, or if there is something on your mind that you want to talk about locally, nationally, sports, weather, you name it, we will deal with it. You can now join me on the air. All you have to do is take your phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone, or even a tablet, and scan the QR code that's in the upper left corner of your screen. Now, let's just say that you are not on a phone, but you're on your computer. You can also enter into a web browser, bit.ly/obguest, bit.ly/obguest, and you will be able to join us live right on the air and become part of the broadcast. We've been hoping to do something like this for a very, very long time, but we haven't been able to get to it. But we are at that point right now. So if during the course of this broadcast you hear something that bothers you, something you want to get off your chest and talk about, please feel free to join me. We'll get to the calls, if there are any, at the end of the broadcast. Now, the one thing I would suggest is if you are going to join me live, that you put earphones in, because there could be some feedback, and make sure you have your camera ready to go as well. You'll be asked to put in your name and the microphone and camera that you want to use on your phone, whether it's the front camera or the rear camera, and choose the microphone on the screen as well. It's that simple. We put you into a queue, and then we will put you right on the air, and you will appear on the screen somewhat like this. Take a look at this. You'll be right there in the corner with me. In fact, that's how easy it is, and it's just a couple of clicks, whether you're on a phone or you're on a computer. So keep that in mind. Something on your mind, let us know. Come on the air with me. This week's newspaper is one of the more unfortunate ones, because last week there was a homicide. In fact, it's called a matricide, where a young man killed his mother in Harrison early last week. He was caught, fortunately, and according to the Hudson County prosecutor, his 67-year-old mother died at the scene, and we believe that it's his aunt who was also stabbed. There were 2 people who were stabbed. Now, this is right around the corner from where I live, and I must admit, I slept through it. I didn't hear anything. But apparently there was some kind of struggle in the apartment. It spilled out into the streets over on Hamilton Street, and that's where, unfortunately, the victim was found dead, and she was only 67 years of age. So it was a terrible way to start last week. The news vans were here from all over Manhattan and the tri-state area, and unfortunately a life was lost in the process. But what a sad situation that was indeed. You can read that on page number 1. As we get to the bottom of page number 1, another kind of wacky situation. This was in South Kearny. A guy was driving along in South Kearny on trucks Route 1 and 9, and all of a sudden he felt that he had been shot, and he was shot in the back of his ear, and nobody seems to know where the bullet came from or how it happened, but he survived. He went to the Jersey City Medical Center for observation, but fortunately survived. Detective Frank West is dealing with the case, and so if you happen to have been in this South Kearny area last week, at that time you know anything about the case, please call Detective Frank West at the Kearny PD. 201-998-1313 is the phone number to call on that. The DPW in the township of Nutley has offered some tips on how to properly remove snow, and maybe the timing is good for this because we're supposed to get some tomorrow. Now, these are some Nutley specific because they have parking regulations that differ from other towns, but most of the tips are appropriate for all of the towns that we cover here at the Observer. Kelly Kavanaugh has been the municipal clerk in Belleville for many, many years, 30 plus years of service to the township, and she has officially retired. There is a new clerk on board who was the clerk for 13 years in Guttenberg. I hope you read about that. And to Kelly, we wish you all the best in your retirement. Congratulations on something that is indeed very well earned. The Harrison Mayor and Council took their oaths of office last week. Mayor James A. Fife for his third term, and 5 council members took their oaths, and that includes our friend Larry Bennett and, of course, Delphine Sarabando, Jimmy Doran, Ellen Mendoza, and Jesus Haranga. All 5 took oaths. Now, Delphine will have to run again this year because he is filling out the unexpired term of Francisco Nascimento, who returned to his native Portugal last year. So he's going to have to run again, unfortunately. But we'll see what happens in that race. There are council races again this year in the town of Harrison. Now, this is one of the more ballsy things we've heard in quite some time from the township of Nutley. There are apparently scammers who are, at this point, now spoofing the Nutley Police Department's phone number so that when the caller ID shows up on your phone, if you're at home, it says the Nutley Police Department's telephone number, which is absolutely ridiculous. And they're telling people to call a specific number to speak to Officer Smith or John Doe or whatever, but some people were suspicious of it. And because they were asked to call a number that's not connected to the Nutley Police Department. Nutley Police Department is very rarely going to make phone calls to residents and say to call back, not talk on the phone if they don't have something to discuss. But it's so easy now. It's so easy to spoof caller ID numbers. It's not even funny. So it really looks legitimate, like these people are calling from police headquarters, but they're not. So be very, very, very cautious when you pick up the phone. Even if the caller ID says Nutley PD, hang up, call back and say, did you just call? You'll know right away whether you're being scammed, and some people were. Some people fell for it, unfortunately, and that is not good. But these scammers are getting smarter and more clever by the day. Kearny High School drama program is putting on Shrek this spring. And in the week leading up to the shows, what was once a regular staple kind of went away during COVID, but it's coming back, Kathy Estrella tells me, and that's dinner and a show for senior citizens. It's going to happen the week of the program on the Monday before the shows that happen on the weekend. They'll be putting on Shrek, and senior citizens will be invited to Kearny High School for a 4:30 dinner and a 6:30 show. The culinary arts program is making the meal, so it's going to be fresh, and it's open to all senior citizens who live in the town of Kearny. So please check that out if you are a senior citizen. There is a woman and a number to call in the story. I'm not going to tell you who that is. Check that out on your own, and you will see what to do. But it's open to all senior citizens in the town of Kearny, and I know that Kathy Estrella is happy to have brought this back after a couple of years of a hiatus, thanks to COVID. This week marks 1 year that a young baby was killed at the hands, allegedly, of her father in North Arlington. And at the time of the homicide, Mayor Dan Pronti had some very strong words about the importance of seeing something and saying something that did not happen in this particular case. So I wanted to remind everybody of the words that he used last year, which I thought were very, very powerful. And, it still blows my mind that for all the abuse that poor child suffered at the hands of her dad, nobody heard a thing. and nobody thought to call, hearing unusual sounds of a screaming and crying baby. It's kind of hard to believe, but that's exactly what happened. It really is. And it was a year ago today. So Mayor Pronti, who is a former police sergeant from Montclair, made a very, very simple but poignant remark back in January of 2022 that if you happen to hear something, you got to speak up. You really do. This whole adage about not saying anything is just so old and ridiculous, and I hope everybody would heed his advice at that point. Colt is over here with me now, everybody. I don't know if you won't be able to see him because he's trying to get food out of my basket. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come on up. Show everybody. No, of course he's not going to come up. But he's over here with me, too. He's in the office with us today, and he's still going back to the can. Tim Wagner has a police blotter this week, and this one was interesting. A woman threw her iPhone at her wife and busted her lip. One got arrested. The other went home, and then she was released on her own recognizance. But the instances of domestic violence are absolutely unbelievable. I can't believe how many instances we've seen, and some of them are really, really unfortunate. Jason Bernstein has got sports this week, including an Athlete of the Week. No, he doesn't have an Athlete of the Week this week. So check out the sports stories. The Lyndhurst Police Department swore in 7 new special law enforcement officers, Class 1, and they are auxiliary police officers, the old auxiliary police program. So I hope you check that out. I want to thank Vinny Ortieri for sending us that story a couple of weeks ago. And these guys basically work for nothing on a volunteer basis, but they can do some security as well where they can make money doing that. The Hudson County Prosecutor's Office is having a program later on this month about how houses of worship should deal with security. Priests, rabbis, imams, anybody involved in a house of worship in Hudson County is invited to attend this. And when you consider that even churches are no longer sacrosanct, it's probably a good idea that pastors and priests and reverends and ministers and deacons and you name it attend this program, because they're going to offer some pretty solid tips on how to plan for, God forbid, the day where somebody enters the sanctuary and does something out of the ordinary. But this is another one of those programs that Esther Suarez puts on that is certainly above and beyond. So check that out when you get a chance. Jim Miller is the president of the West Hudson Amateur Radio Club, and they're having a special event on the 28th and 29th. So if you've ever had an interest in ham radio, check this out and maybe stop by. It's going to be over to VFW at the end of the month. And Jim is an amateur ham operator himself, has his license, and they started this club a couple of years ago, and they're getting off the ground. So please check that out when you get a chance. Now, we have 2 pages of classifieds, as we do every week. And if you're looking for a job, there are a lot of job opportunities in this week's edition of The Observer, including for the town of Kearny. 2 big positions that they are looking for is the tax assessor and the UEZ coordinator, because John Pineda, who currently holds both of those offices, is about to retire. And we will have a special feature on John, who leaves the town of Kearny after many, many years of dedicated service. So that's going to do it for this edition of The Observer Live. Nobody called in today, but that's okay. We'll get to that, and eventually we'll have guests for you. We'll be back here 1 week from today, and of course, if anything breaks during the course of the week, as it did last week, we will join you live no matter where or when it happens. And until then, we'll hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody. Take care.